Deep within the walls of some of America's most secure prisons, one man repeatedly defied the system, slipping through barriers meant to contain him. This man was no ordinary inmate. He was James Earl Ray, the convicted assassin of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Despite being placed in maximum security facilities under heavy surveillance, Ray managed to escape multiple times, outsmarting guards, breaching walls, and vanishing into the outside world. His most infamous escape was so elaborate that it embarrassed the entire American prison system and sparked one of the largest manhunts in history. Today, we delve into the daring prison escapes of James Earl Ray, a man whose cunning and determination pushed the limits of what seemed possible. Ray's life behind bars began in 1959 when he was sentenced to 20 years for a series of armed robberies. But prison life never suited him. From the moment he was locked up, he spent every waking moment planning ways to break free. His first successful escape came in 1967 when he was incarcerated at the Missouri State Penitentiary. Ray was known as a quiet inmate, one who rarely caused trouble, which worked in his favor. Over months, he studied the routines of the guards, the weak points in security, and the habits of fellow prisoners. The prison's bread truck made regular deliveries, and Ray noticed that it often left with empty racks and supplies. He hatched a plan to hide inside one of the bread racks and be smuggled out. On the day of his escape, he carefully folded himself into a tight space beneath the supplies, covering himself just enough to avoid detection. Guards did a quick scan but never bothered to check thoroughly. The truck rolled through the gates, and just like that, Ray was out. For nearly a year, Ray evaded capture, using multiple aliases and traveling across the country. He eventually found himself in Mexico, where he attempted to reinvent himself as a filmmaker. But by early 1968, he had grown restless. He returned to the U.S. and made his way to Memphis, Tennessee, where he carried out one of the most infamous assassinations in American history: the murder of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Captured in London just 2 months later, Ray was extradited to the U.S., where he was sentenced to 99 years in Tennessee's Brushy Mountain State Penitentiary, a facility built specifically to house the country's most dangerous criminals. The prison was surrounded by high fences, armed guards, and rugged, impassable terrain. But for Ray, it was just another challenge. For years, he studied the prison's weaknesses. He learned that the prison industry's building, where inmates worked, had access to an outdoor recreation yard. More importantly, he discovered that one section of the prison's exterior wall had weakened over time due to erosion. The rocks were loose, and with the right tools, it could be breached. Ray also observed that guard patrols followed a strict routine, creating gaps in security that could be exploited. In 1977, after nearly a decade behind bars, Ray put his escape plan into motion. He had secretly acquired hacksaw blades, hidden within food supplies smuggled in by a bribed kitchen worker. He spent weeks cutting through the bars of his cell, ensuring the damage was small enough to go unnoticed during daily inspections. He worked at night, covering the cuts with soap and shoe polish to make them blend in. Once the bars were loose enough, he coordinated with 6 other inmates who were also eager to escape. They waited for the perfect moment, when the guards were distracted by an incident in another part of the prison. Under the cover of darkness, Ray and the others slipped through the cut bars and made their way to the prison industry's yard. Here, Ray's meticulous planning paid off. Using a makeshift ladder constructed from mop handles and bed sheets, they climbed over the weak exterior wall. The climb was risky. One wrong step, and they'd fall to their deaths. But Ray moved with precision, guiding the others across. The real challenge, however, was the terrain outside the prison. Brushy Mountain State Penitentiary was built in a remote area surrounded by dense forest and steep cliffs. Ray had prepared for this, studying maps of the area and memorizing potential escape routes. He and the others made their way through the thick woods, avoiding main roads to prevent detection. For 55 hours, Ray remained on the run. He covered over 5 miles relying on stolen food and water from abandoned cabins. However, his luck ran out when bloodhounds picked up his scent. A massive manhunt involving helicopters and heavily armed search teams closed in on him. Weakened and exhausted, Ray was finally captured hiding beneath a pile of leaves. He was dragged back to prison, where his sentence was extended by an additional year. The authorities weren't taking any more chances. He was placed under constant surveillance, moved to a high-security unit, and had every movement strictly monitored. But Ray wasn't done yet. Even as security tightened, he began formulating another escape plan. This time, he considered using a tunnel system beneath the prison, but the added scrutiny made it impossible. Eventually, age and declining health slowed him down, and he spent his remaining years behind bars. James Earl Ray's escapes remain some of the most daring in modern history, showcasing both his determination and his ability to outthink even the most secure prison systems. His story is a chilling reminder that no prison is entirely escape-proof, and that even the most notorious criminals can find a way out, at least temporarily.